And Lamine Yamal was injured while converting a penalty in Barcelona's Spanish League win against Celta Vigo. Yamal scored Barcelona's first goal in the 40th minute on Wednesday and immediately looked to the bench and signalled that he was hurt. And predictive market platform Kalshi has punished 3 unnamed United States political candidates for taking part in insider trading by betting on their own campaigns. In a statement on Wednesday, Kalshi explained that it had taken the enforcement action after launching a new raft of safeguards.
That. United States Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent has said that several allies in the Gulf region and Asia have requested currency swap lines from the US to help them with the energy shocks and other fallout from the US-Israel war on Iran. That. Bessent told US senators on Wednesday that both the US and the United Arab Emirates would benefit from a proposed swap line, the act of central banks exchanging currency to provide liquidity that can stabilize markets in times of economic uncertainty, that US President Donald Trump said he was considering on Tuesday.
And 2 cabinet-level ministers in Peru have resigned after interim President Jose Maria Balcazar announced he would defer a decision to buy F-16 fighter jets from the United States company Lockheed Martin. Defense Minister Carlos Diaz and Foreign Minister Hugo de Zayla cited their opposition to the move in their resignation letters on Wednesday. And 15 South American migrants and asylum seekers recently deported from the United States to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC, say they are facing pressure to return to their countries of origin, despite concerns for their safety. Women from Colombia, Peru and Ecuador told the Reuters news agency that since being deported to the Central African nation last week, they have been given no credible options other than going back to their home countries. And National Resources Limited said its Daragwan area site in Balochistan came under attack from unidentified assailants on Wednesday evening, prompting a swift response from security forces. In a statement issued on April 22nd, the company said the incident took place at around 5:45 p.m. It added that security forces, including the Frontier Corps, responded quickly and secured the area. And an Israeli airstrike killed a Lebanese journalist and wounded another on Wednesday while they were working near the border with Israel, according to their employer and rescuers. The Civil Defense Agency's press office said rescuers were able to recover the body of martyred journalist Amal Khalil, who was killed as a result of a hostile airstrike that targeted a house in the town of Al Tiri. Islamabad, Lahore. The Securities and Exchange Commission of Pakistan has approved 2 more initial public offerings, Sitara Petroleum Service Limited and LSE SPAC I Limited, on the Pakistan Stock Exchange, PSX. With these approvals, the total number of IPOs in FY26 has reached 11. And Lahore. The Bank of Punjab has signed a strategic memorandum of understanding with Stacks to transform Pakistan's remittance landscape and advance its digital financial ecosystem. According to a press release, the partnership was formalized on Wednesday with an agreement signed by Chief Executive and President Zafar Masood and Stacks co-founder Munib Ali. And PM meets Iranian ambassador, hopes both sides will ink peace deal for permanent end to conflict. Dar speaks to Turkish counterpart, meets UK envoy, and says dialogue only viable path. Insiders say efforts in full swing to bring both sides to table. Extension created space for diplomacy, Islamabad. And Paki's Daunton on Wednesday kept its focus on sustaining the diplomatic track after facilitating a unilateral extension of the ceasefire between Iran and the US, and as indications emerged that a second round of talks could take place within the next few days.
That. Fuel supply to Islamabad, Peshawar airports likely to be affected. Goods transporters want district authorities to reopen roads. Traders warn of price hikes as supply chain disruptions persist. Matter referred to Punjab Govt. Regional Transport Authority official says Rawalpindi. Suspension of goods transport in Rawalpindi and Islamabad has led to a shortage of edibles and fuel.
And Trump says resumption of negotiations in Islamabad possible within 36 to 72 hours, appreciates Tehran for stopping execution of detained women. Pezeshkian welcomes dialogue, cites breach of commitment and blockade and threats as main obstacles. Trump denies media reports about deadline and says no time pressure surrounding ceasefire. Galibaf says complete truce only makes sense if not violated by naval blockade. Iran seizes 2 cargo ships attempting to cross Strait of Hormuz. And another vessel comes under fire, Washington's Tehran. As the Iran-US ceasefire extension created space for further diplomacy, US President Donald Trump on Wednesday hoped a second round of talks could take place within 2 to 3 days, and despite persistent mistrust.
That. Manchester City ended Arsenal's 6-month stay on the Premier League summit and condemned Burnley to relegation with a laboured 1-0 victory at Turf Moor on Wednesday. Erling Haaland's clinical finish after 5 minutes could have paved the way for a boost to City's goal difference, but they lacked a cutting edge as Burnley dug deep.
And Tesla CEO Elon Musk kicked off the company's first quarter earnings call with a monetary heads-up, or depending on the mindset of the investor, a warning. Tesla's capital expenditures will skyrocket to $25 billion in 2026, and far outpacing its previous annual spend as it races to stay ahead of the competition and transitions to an AI and robotics company, according to its first quarter earnings report. That figure, and which covers what Tesla plans to spend on physical assets outside of its day-to-day operating expenditures, is 3 times higher than its annual capex budget in previous years. For comparison, Tesla's annual capital expenditures were $8.5 billion in 2025, $11.3 billion in 2024, and $8.9 billion in 2020. And Bluesky isn't the only company leaning into AI to help build custom feeds, it seems. Amid a slate of recent product releases, X this week announced the launch of Grok-powered custom timelines, which let you dive into one of over 75 specific topics through curated feeds that can be pinned to your home tab. The company touted the feature as one of the biggest changes to the app to date, and saying it uses Grok's AI to not only build these custom timelines, but also personalize them for individual users. And Elon Musk said Wednesday that millions of Tesla owners will need hardware upgrades to run a future version of its full self-driving software that doesn't require human supervision. After he and Tesla spent years promising that wouldn't be the case, the admission could open the company up to legal challenges from customers who bought Teslas on the belief that the cars were just one software update away from being able to drive themselves. And at Google Cloud Next this week, the tech giant announced a bevy of new updates to Workspace, its subscription-based productivity suite aimed at professionals. As you might expect, the updates are heavy on AI, integrating new automation tools into various workflows, everything from drafting emails to organizing Google Sheets. Overall, the changes are clearly designed to give office workers a leg up in their pursuit of less busy work. Here's some of what is. Ryan Roslansky stepped down as LinkedIn's CEO on Wednesday after 6 years running the world's largest professional network. Dan Shapiro, the company's COO, takes over immediately. Roslansky's tenure deserves attention. And he joined LinkedIn in 2009. He was one of Jeff Weiner's first hires and spent more than a decade working through nearly every corner of the business before taking the top job in June 2020 and at the height of pandemic-era labor market chaos. Microsoft acquired LinkedIn in 2016. And Tesla saw an uptick in revenue and profit year over year, figures buoyed by an increase in automotive revenue and other services, including subscriptions to its full self-driving advanced driver assistance system, which reached 1.28 million. Tesla shares rose 4% in after-hours trading, following the release of its first quarter earnings report, driven by its free cash flow and increases in revenue and profit on a year-over-year basis. And Earlier this month, NASA's Artemis 2 mission sent 4 astronauts to orbit the moon and used new laser communications systems to beam dramatic images back to Earth. One of the receivers, though, wasn't hosted by the US Space Agency. A low-cost terminal built by the companies Observable Space and Quantum Opus and operated by the Australian National University pulled down data broadcast from a spacecraft at the moon at a rate of 260 megabits per second.
That. Google Cloud on Wednesday announced that its 8th generation of custom-built AI chips, or tensor processing units, TPUs, will be split in 2. One chip, named the TPU-8T, will be geared for model training, and another, the TPU-8I, is aimed at inference. Inference is the ongoing usage of models, aka what happens after users submit prompts.
And some of the most consequential companies in tech history didn't launch with a splashy fundraising announcement. They started with a pitch. Dropbox demoed to a room of skeptics. And Cloudflare took the stage before most people understood what edge networking meant. Discord was a scrappy game developer called Hammer and Chisel. Mint, Trello, Forethought, N26. All of them passed through the same crucible. And TechCrunch startup Battlefield. That's not a coincidence. Battlefield isn't just a competition. It's a launch pad, and the numbers back it up. More than 1,700 companies have competed on the Battlefield stage together, and they've raised $32 billion in total funding and generated over 250 exits, including acquisitions by Microsoft, Google, Yahoo, Salesforce, Twitter, Uber, and Amazon. And the startup Battlefield network runs so deep that alumni have even acquired each other. Dropbox acquired fellow startup Battlefield alum DocSend in 2021. For thousands of founders, and it's become a defining milestone, not just a pitch competition, but the moment the world started paying attention. And Apple released a software update on Wednesday for iPhones and iPads, fixing a bug that allowed law enforcement to extract messages that had been deleted or disappeared automatically from messaging apps. This was because notifications that displayed the message's content were also cached on the device for up to a month. In a security notice on its website, Apple said that the bug meant notifications marked for deletion could be unexpectedly retained on the device. And the French government agency that handles the issuing and management of citizens' identity documents, including national IDs, passports, and immigration documents, confirmed Wednesday that it experienced a data breach. In an announcement, and the Agence Nationale des Titres Sécurisés said the data stolen in the breach could include full names, dates and places of birth, mailing and email addresses, and phone numbers on an undisclosed number of citizens. And Ant said the investigation to determine how the breach happened and its impact is ongoing, and people whose data was affected are being notified. And until a few hours before SpaceX announced its deal, giving it the option to acquire Cursor, the maker of AI-powered coding software, for $60 billion. Cursor was on track to close a $2 billion funding round later this week, and, according to a person familiar with the matter, the round would have valued the company at $50 billion. SpaceX said it would either buy the company at some point later this year or pay $10 billion to Cursor to collaborate on AI development. And Cursor was apparently running a parallel process negotiating a potential acquisition by SpaceX while simultaneously finalizing a private funding round with investors that include Andreessen Horowitz, Thrive, Nvidia, and Battery Ventures, and details of which were first reported by TechCrunch last week.
That. Iran's parliament speaker and ex-brigadier general of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, on Wednesday issued a strongly worded statement that any potential ceasefire will be possible if the US lifts its maritime blockade at Hormuz and all the Zionist warmongering across all fronts ceases to exist. That. In a post on X, formerly Twitter, Ghalibaf said a complete ceasefire would only be meaningful if it is not violated by continued restrictions on maritime trade and the hostage-taking of the world's economy.
and the Pakistan Medical and Dental Council, PMDC moved forward with its probe into 3 major cases, including the tragic suicides of 2 medical students and an operating theatre OT video scandal, and by holding preliminary hearings and referring all matters to its disciplinary committee for final decisions. According to a PMDC statement, and the preliminary hearings were conducted to ensure a fair and informed assessment before initiating formal disciplinary proceedings. Relevant stakeholders, including representatives from the institutions involved, and were invited to present their accounts and help establish a clear factual record. And a global surge in large-scale battery projects is set to reshape power systems in 2026, with installations planned across regions including Texas, Inner Mongolia and New South Wales. Falling costs, rising electricity demand and geopolitical tensions are driving rapid growth, positioning battery storage as a key part of the future energy mix.
The Punjab government has included several villages in Rawalpindi division in the Model Village project to improve basic infrastructure in rural areas. Villages in Kala Sayadan, Guja Khan, Kahuta and surrounding areas will receive upgrade facilities, including clean drinking water, street lighting, paved roads, drainage systems, improved children's parks and wastewater treatment infrastructure.
And Karachi. Interpol has issued a red notice for a fugitive Liari gangster, Wasiullah Lakho, who is reportedly hiding abroad and wanted by Karachi Police South Deputy Inspector General Syed Asad Raza told Dawn on Wednesday. A red notice is a request to law enforcement agencies by Interpol to locate and provisionally arrest a person pending extradition, surrender or similar legal action.